Welcome back, Year 5. In today's reading lesson, we'll be starting a new book. It's called Fantastic Mr. Fox. Each day, I'm going to read one chapter of this book, and we'll have a specific focus for the lesson. After I do our read aloud, you're going to have an assignment based on the focus skill. Today, we're reading chapter 1, and the focus is making predictions. Your intention is to make predictions based on what you already know about a text and your own background knowledge. Let's get started. As I said before, this book is called Fantastic Mr. Fox. It was written by Roald Dahl. You might know some of his other work. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He also wrote Matilda and other very popular books. Take a look at the cover. I want you to pause the video if you need to and just think in your head, what do you think this book is going to be about? Now let's have a look at the blurb. You can see that on the right-hand side of your screen. It says there, Bogus, Boones, and Bean are just about the nastiest and meanest three farmers you could meet. And they hate Mr. Fox. They are determined to get him, so they lie in wait outside his hole, each one crouching behind a tree with his gun loaded, ready to shoot, starve, or dig him out. But clever, handsome Mr. Fox has other plans. So, the blurb, as you know, gives us an idea of what the story is going to be about. So now we have a rough idea. We're dealing with Mr. Fox, who seems to be quite clever, and some farmers who want to kill him. Now let's take a look at the table of contents. So let's look at our table of contents. Now, if you're a very clever reader, you're going to use the table of contents to give you clues about what's going to happen in the story. I remember when I was a kid, I would always look at the table of contents and then start to think about what's going to happen in the story, because lots of the time the author gives away characters and storylines that you don't know about in the first chapter but come up much later in the story. So as we go through the table of contents, I want you to think to yourself, what's going to be happening? Why might Roald Dahl give that chapter a specific title? What might it mean? Chapter 1 is called The Three Farmers. Then we have Mr. Fox, the shooting, the terrible shovels, the terrible tractors, the race, we'll never let him go. That gives me a clue, somebody gets caught. The foxes begin to starve. Mr. Fox has a plan. Bogus's chicken house number 1, a surprise for Mrs. Fox, Badger, Boones's giant storehouse, Badger has doubts, Bean's secret cider cellar, the woman, the great feast, that sounds like something nice at the end, and then still waiting. So I just want you to pause for a moment before we begin to read the actual story. What do you think might happen based on the names of these titles? All right, let's start chapter 1 called The Three Farmers. The Three Farmers. Down in the valley, there were 3 farms. The owners of these farms had done well. They were rich men. They were also nasty men. All 3 of them were about as nasty and mean as any men you could meet. Their names were Farmer Bogus, Farmer Boones, and Farmer Bean. Bogus was a chicken farmer. He kept thousands of chickens. He was enormously fat. This was because he ate 3 boiled chickens smothered with dumplings every day for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Take a look at those illustrations. They actually reveal a lot about this character. So here we see Farmer Bogus. And what's he eating? Well, exactly what they told us in the story. Boiled chicken, which sounds pretty nasty, smothered with dumplings, and he eats that 3 times a day. No wonder he's so big. And then, underneath the text that we just read, we see some chickens. How do they look? Well, they look terrified of him. Why? Well, I see 3 chickens. Maybe he's planning to eat them for breakfast, lunch, and supper. Let's move on to the next page and see what else we're going to find out about. I'm guessing if there's 3 farmers, the next page is going to tell us about the next farmer. Boones was a duck and goose farmer. He kept thousands of ducks and geese. He was a kind of pot-bellied dwarf. He was so short his chin could have been underwater in the shallow end of any swimming pool in the world. His food was donuts and goose livers. He mashed the livers into a disgusting paste and then stuffed the paste into the donuts. This diet gave him a tummy ache and a beastly temper. Now, take a look at Boones. So, his distinguishing feature, just like how Bogus was really big, Boones is really short. And he also has a disgusting diet. He eats goose livers and donuts all the time. No wonder he feels so horrible. I guess the last character for us to find out about in this chapter called The Three Farmers would be the third farmer, which must be Bean. Let's take a look. Bean was a turkey and apple farmer. He kept thousands of turkeys in an orchard full of apple trees. He never ate any food at all. Instead, he drank gallons of strong cider which he made from the apples in his orchard. He was as thin as a pencil and the cleverest of them all. Now take a look at Bean. I know I'm going to remember him clearly because bean, when I think of a bean, I think of like string beans and they're long and skinny, and he looks long and skinny too, which makes sense because he never eats, he only drinks. He's the cleverest, so I think we're going to have to look out for him. He might be trouble later on because it says that they are all mean and nasty. There's one more page in this chapter. Let's see what happens. Bogus and Boonts and Bean, one fat, one short, one lean. These horrible crooks, so different in looks, were none the less equally mean. That is what the children round about used to sing when they saw them. Well, this was a very short chapter, but it gave us a lot of information about these three characters, Bogus and Boonts and Bean. And that rhyme on the last page kind of sums it all up. They're the three of them. One is fat, one is short, one is lean, but they're all terrible. It calls them horrible crooks. A crook is like a criminal. And it says they're different in looks, which makes sense, and also that they're equally mean. So we know that these are going to be the bad guys in our story. Now that we've finished reading that first chapter, it's time for your independent task. You're going to need to do this independent task in a notebook. If you don't have a notebook yet, you can start this on lined paper, but eventually it's going to need to get put into a notebook that you have. Remember, our focus skill today was making predictions. Think back to the cover of the text, the blurb, the table of contents, and what we have read so far. What you're going to do is write a paragraph predicting what is going to happen in the entire story. This book is about 18 chapters long. Keep that in mind. You're going to break your prediction down into what will happen in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. This prediction does not need to be pages and pages. Please remember, all I said is write a paragraph. So it could be about 6 sentences or so, a little bit more if you're feeling extra eager, but I would expect about a minimum of 6 sentences. And as always, you can support your answer with illustrations. All right, you guys, don't forget to send me a photo of your work, and as always, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.